Today we're going somewhere a little bit different. We're not just gonna talk about climbers technique. We're gonna talk about community, specifically the online community built around indoor bouldering. My guest today has spent time researching and living inside this world. Augusto, thanks for being here. Hey, don't worry. Thanks for having me. Happy to talk to you about this one. You can refer to me as August. Perfect. So let's start simple. When you walked into the bouldering gym for the first time, what was the actually like? Okay, so the first time I walked into the gym, I was brought by some of my friends back in Mexico in 2021. At first, it seemed intimidating and extremely overwhelming. As you walk into the gym, you see people doing all kinds of advanced techniques. You can certainly feel as you were behind. However, I soon realized the unity of everyone there. While climbing, some climbers approached us and gave us advice on how to approach certain boulders. Not only that, but he then offered beta and some of the chalk for us. We eventually managed to climb that boulder and thanked the climber who approached us later and helped us. He then said we could ask for help anytime as he was there most of the week. It was definitely a great first impression, and I became really excited for my next visit. That overwhelmed feeling seemed pretty common, but you found something interesting once you looked past that first impression, which is that this isn't just a hobby. It is what researchers would call a discourse community, right? What does this actually mean? Right, so there is this idea from a guy named John Swaz and a writer named Dan Meltzer, who break it down into 6 requirements. A shared goal, a way of communicating, using that communication to give feedback, specific genres that help the group reach its goals, a specific vocabulary, and experienced members who help everyone else improve. Wait, and bouldering as a whole checks those boxes? I mean, not really. So how's that? And that is the interesting part. Meltzer actually gives the example of guitar players. People who enjoy playing music are not automatically a discourse community just because they share the hobby. They are not interacting around a common goal. Same logic applies here. Someone climbing in Orlando and someone climbing in Mexico are not part of the same community just because they both climb. So what changes that? What actually turns bouldering to a discourse community? August? A specific space with a stated purpose. That is where subreddit r/indoor bouldering comes in. It describes itself directly, something like a subreddit for the indoor bouldering community. Anything related to indoor bouldering can be discussed here. That is not vague enthusiasm about climbing in general. That is a stated specific purpose. And it's not some tiny forgotten corner of the internet either, right? No, we're talking about 25,000 weekly visitors and close to 550 weekly contributors. That is consistent enough to actively that a real community forms instead of just people posting once and disappearing forever. Okay, so let us talk about the actual genres you found on the subreddit. What is a beta request post? It is probably the most common thing you will see. Someone posts a photo or a short video of a specific route and asks for something like, how would you read this climb? Or help a beginner out with V3. There is a pattern to it too. We always need the visual evidence first, the photo or video, because without it, nobody can actually respond. Tagging the grade is common, but not required. And the word choice in those posts is interesting too, right? Nobody stops to explain basic terms. Exactly. Words like read or beta are never defined in the post itself. That is what one of the writers I used, Sarah Saleh, calls salential relations. Basically the stuff a community lets go unsaid, because everyone already gets it. An outsider scrolling through might be like a little bit lost, but nobody inside needs to spell it out, and now it forms part of their basic lexic and vocabulary. What does that tell you about the values of this community? That the tone is never embarrassed. People openly admit they're beginners and ask basic questions and get real answers because everyone was there once. It points to a community built around solving problems together instead of one where you're expected to already know everything before you show up. Has this ever happened to you? Of course. When visiting my family for Christmas 7 months ago, Some younger climbers asked for betas or advice while I was climbing with my sister. I would never look down on someone who is actively trying to improve himself. At that moment, I truly felt amazing, as a few years back, I was the one asking for advice, and I felt some satisfaction in being able to help them, which felt really good. Now, there's a second genre you found that is almost the opposite of the beta request. Can you please tell me a little bit more about that one? Yep, the fail post. The clearest example I found was a post literally titled "Oops," showing a climber mid-fall from a high point on a wall. Unlike the beta post, it is not asking anything of the audience. It is turning a mistake into something entertaining, kind of like a shared vulnerability with the whole community. And that post did really good numbers, right? It kinda did. It had 221 upvotes and 21 comments. Compare that to the beta request posts I collected. Those were sitting closer to 10 or 20 upvotes each and around 11 comments. The gap seems a lot about what the community actually rewards when people are just scrolling. So camaraderie and humor might matter just as much as the technical help, maybe more in terms of daily engagement. That is basically the argument, yeah. There is a writer, Elijah St. Charles, who made a similar point about Dungeons & Dragons community, that a community's genres reflect its values, not just in its practical needs. Bouldering fits that pattern too. Yes, so going back to the Oops post, have you ever posted or seen a fail moment shared for laughs at your gym? What was the reaction like in person compared to what is described online? Now that you mention it, let me pull up a video from one of my falls when I went to Boulder with my family. Okay, so in person, you can laugh at your own mistakes or if a friend or someone from your group falls in a comical way. However, when you see someone else fall, there is no reaction, then some concern. But as they walk it off, you return to your boulders and everything goes as normal. So no one necessarily laughs at someone random if they fall or commit a mistake. As in Reddit, the user clearly intended to entertain the rest of the community with one of their own mistakes. There is a third genre. You mentioned that it's different because it is not something an individual member creates. So what did you mean by that? Right. The pinned monthly simple questions and new climbers thread, it exists specifically so beginners have a dedicated space to ask things without starting a whole new post that might be buried between all the betas and comical posts. It is built into the structure of the subreddit itself. That reminds me of something you connected to another writer about entering a Discord community as an intern. Yep, Kelly Sue describes her early days in a lab as a kid of training period, where she was not expected to participate independently right away. She had to build confidence first. The monthly thread works kind of the same way, you know? For new climbers, it lowers the stakes of asking questions by giving it a predictable expected place for experienced members to read and answer to their questions. I see how it could be more welcoming for beginners as to other hobbies. Now, let us talk hierarchy for a second, because bouldering actually has something most online communities do not. Exactly, the V-scale grading system. Reputation on a forum can be hard to judge from the outside, but a climber's grade level is immediately visible to anyone watching them climb. Someone working through V0s and V1s is clearly in their early on stage, and someone finishing and flashing some V6 and V7s clearly has some status and experience behind their belt. And okay, so does this level difference create a gatekeeping or where more experienced climbers look down on beginners? From what I've found and my own experience, not at all. And that is kind of the point, you know? More experienced members have less motivation to gatekeep. They gain nothing from hoarding knowledge or making beginners feel small. If anything, the grade speaks for itself, so that there is less need to prove anything through attitude. Now that you mentioned your own experiences, so based on your experiences, does that match what you have seen? Do more experienced climbers at your gym act the way too? Yes, as I have said before, each member of the community is working and improving themselves. There is no direct competition, so everyone is open for advice and actively asks for help if needed. So if you zoom out and put all three genres together, the beta request, the fail post, and the monthly thread, what is the actual pattern you see? The beta request shows a community comfortable admitting what they do and do not know. The fail post shows a community that values shared humor over projecting competence. And the monthly thread shows that openness is not an accident. Someone built structure around it on purpose for beginners to feel welcomed. So it's kind of running on an unspoken agreement, right? Pretty much. That struggling public is fine, maybe even expected, and that the people who already worked through the struggle are there to help the next person through it too. So basically, you have experienced members helping everyone behind or below them. Just to clarify for the audience, by below them, I think he means more of below the grading of the experienced member. Now, to close with your own takeaway, what has being part of this community actually meant for you personally? It is honestly have been amazing. Even throughout borders, these behaviors are conserved. Indoor bouldering not only helps to improve your physical strength and appearance, of course, Rather, it's a way to practice life problem solving and frustration management. In the last years, it has gained popularity and hopefully more people experience the good community indoor bouldering truly is. Augusto, thank you for breaking this down with me. This was a great look at a corner of the internet. A lot of people probably scroll past without realizing how much actually is going in there. So thank you. Thanks for having me. What's up, Chalk Talkers? That is all for this episode of Chalk Talk. Catch you next time.